What's up, y'all, and welcome to another video. I am recording this for the second time, so I'm gonna kind of try to replicate what I talked about the first time, but I did not record my audio. Not super used to recording videos on my computer. Usually I just do the pack opening, so this is a little different. I did this before around Thanksgiving to talk about some deals. Right now I'm going to be talking about what I recently purchased. I talked about this earlier in the week that I made a larger sale and I wanted to spread that money out and, kind of do some fun things with it. I sold a Giratina V alternate art. You can see me pull that card. It's in a separate video on the channel. It's a beautiful card. I think the card is amazing. I think it's absolutely overvalued. As much as I like the card, as much as I think, it's a really cool card for anyone's collection, I think the price it is at right now is just too high. And so I would not pick it up at the price it's at right now because I do think it will drop. Here we've got a lightly played card selling for $257. I sold mine lower than that. I would also describe mine as, LP to near mint. Like it is not a perfect copy, even though it was pack fresh. It has a little bit of a softish corner, and it was a little off center. So I try to be realistic, and I did sell rather quickly, just because I think this peak, I think it's just going to keep going down. I'm going to be completely honest. I think this card will be, 210. I think that's more reasonable, but I 100% believe this card will be under $200 by the end of the year. Maybe I've proven wrong. Maybe this card ends up being like the Rayquaza Gold Star of this era of Pokemon cards. Obviously not going to ever reach those prices, but at that term, by that I mean Rayquaza was not super popular, or at least not to the extent of base set Pokemon, but that card kind of elevated even past the Gold Stars of Charizard. Maybe Giratina does the same thing for this generation. I don't really see that happening, but that's the counter argument. But I think this will be a $150 to $180 alternate art by this time next year. That's the way that I feel about it. So for me, it was a very clear decision to quickly move that card out of my collection, even though I do like it. I do think it's a really cool card. So I've got that. I also came in second in my fantasy football championship. Yes, congrats to myself. But that's a little extra money. I had an extra $50. I kind of added it all together. I'll redo it. I think I had $287. I made a couple other smaller sales on Pokemon cards. I do sell here and there, so nothing crazy there. But all that together adds up to around $287 minus, this is that total minus expected eBay fees coming out. It may not be exact, but it comfortably is around that, around the $280 mark. $287 just being what I ended up with. So how would I spend $287 on Pokemon right now, which is what I plan on doing with that money? Well, I would like to buy some some Sun and Moon cards. I think Sun and Moon as a generation is in this nice middle ground where it's not going to be reprinted again, but it is not considered vintage yet. And I think people will start to have a little bit of a nostalgia for Sun and Moon, and people will kind of look back at those cards and maybe be interested in picking them up. So I do think that these cards are at a bottom right now because they weren't in play, but they weren't vintage, and it's just not being talked about as much. So for me, I really think that this is a great time to buy Sun and Moon cards. So the first one I'm going to be picking up is the Test Tube Mewtwo. I think this is top 5 Sun and Moon cards. So this is the big card that I'm going to be picking up. This $100 price point is a little inflated. There are other copies selling for around $80. There's copies that are currently up on eBay as well that I'll be looking at. So I'm not going to buy this today, but I do plan on picking this up within the next week. The Mewtwo GX Test Tube Mewtwo. It is the secret rare, the Shining card from the Shining Legend set, which was not printed as heavily as Hidden Fates, which was certainly not as printed as heavily as Shining Fates. So lower print run, very cool card, classic Pokemon, checks all the boxes. If you're gonna go with the SM print, older, minter, rare, or better, it is older. It's obviously not that old, but it is going to be in mint condition. I'm obviously probably not going to get a PSA 10, but I think a PSA 9 safely I can pick up for around this much. And it's a classic Pokemon, so I think it in some sense it checks that older box in that way. The next card I'm going to be picking up is this Rainbow Rare Latios and Latios. People are off the Rainbow Rare track, which makes sense, right? Why is Pokemon still doing Rainbow Rares? It makes no sense. I think they should have dropped Rainbow Rares a long time ago. However, I think Rainbow Rares and Sun and Moon go hand in hand. I think when you're talking about that era of cards and that format of Secret Rare, they fit really well together because you've got like the Alolan theme, the kind of island theme, the bright, sunny atmosphere, I guess you might say. And so, like, it makes sense that they introduced Rainbow Rares in that generation, and it makes sense as a format for that generation. So, Latios and Latios being two key Pokemon from that generation on a card together from a set that was not printed that heavily with Team Up, I think all those things together make this card very appealing. And I just $36 is cheap. I mean, that is the price, of like a lower end alternate art in the current generation, and it's going to be a less heavily printed card than those alternate arts, and I think just a lot more of an appealing card for me in terms of both my collection and in terms of potential growth on this card. Whereas a lot of the Sword and Shield cards I see being very stagnant for quite some time. So assuming I pay $40 for that, a little bit extra, and I pay, let's say, $85 for the Mewtwo, we're down to $162 left to spend on other cards. One thing I'm collecting personally are the Evolution alternate arts. The VMAXs are too expensive. I'm not going to touch those. They're too much money. I have the Espeon VMAX, and I obviously have the promos, the Vaporeon, Jolteon, Flareon VMAXs. I will not be picking up the others. They're just too expensive. But I can pick up the Vs. Those are in a comfortable price range to me, where I actually think these cards could appreciate a little bit in value. They've gone down. I think this Horseshoe could come back up. Maybe not. Maybe it takes a long time. Maybe I do buy a little bit higher, but that's okay because this is for my personal collection. I don't really plan on selling Sylveon or Espeon V anytime soon. I'm not going to pick them both up. I do kind of like to spread out my spending. I don't really like to just complete a collection all at once, because then it just kind of takes the fun out of it. But I could pick up, let's say, the Sylveon V, and let's say I pay $75 for that. I don't know if I will. That one I'm a little more suspect on. I will probably pick up one up this month, but I don't know if necessarily out of this pool of money that's a purchase I'll make. But let's say that I do. I still then have $87 left over. And I do kind of want to spend a little bit of that on sealed product, because I think Elite Trainer boxes that are below MSRP are just great deals. The Vivid Voltage box has actually gone up a little bit. It was $35, a couple weeks ago. $38 I think is still reasonable, so I may pick it up at that price. But below MSRP, sort of. It's basically at MSRP. I still think Vivid Voltage is a great set. I think it continues to trend upwards. I think you got Pikachu on an Elite Trainer box. It's just going to kind of move with Pokemon as a hobby. Obviously, a lot of them were printed, and it did have a reprint recently. I don't think it's going to get another reprint. Now's a reasonable time to buy. I probably should have bought a little earlier when it was a little cheaper, realistically. But I'm fine paying that price for it. I'm going to hit back because I'm not going to be picking this one up. That's basically MSRP. I think this will get lower because I think it'll get reprinted again. But I will be picking up this one, the Darkness Ablaze box. It's got Charizard in it. It's not a great set, admittedly, but 25% under MSRP. That's bottom. This is obviously not going to get printed again. Although I would have probably said that in 2021 that this set would not get reprinted. But Pokemon really did a good job of any set that was printed during the massive boom of 2020. They did a good job of reprinting those sets to make them available to players and everything like that. Makes sense to me. I think Pokemon did a good job of that. I don't think they go back and reprint Darkness Ablaze again. So this is the lowest I think this product will ever be. So it's a pretty safe pickup in my mind. So that's another 75, or another, let's say another 5, because what's it called? The Pikachu one, Vivid Voltage one was closer to 40. So let's do $7. I may pick up some more things with that $7. I do have another thing for sale that I expect to sell for at least $60 right now. Probably go pretty quickly up on my eBay. So I may have a little bit of extra to play with there as well. That I'll probably keep and kind of put towards stuff to open on the channel. Just kind of use that as a little bit of extra, cushion to kind of refresh my Silver Tempest packs as we keep doing those openings. Refresh, getting a lot of Crown Zenith. I do plan on opening one of every product of Crown Zenith, so next week will be a little pricey for me in terms of that. So, just having a little bit extra to buffer myself getting the Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box and just a regular Elite Trainer box is what I'll start with next week. So it just gives me a little bit of buffer for those purchases. So that's how I'm going to be spending the money that I got from this one card. I think that is a lot of things to pick up from one card, and I think diversifying and kind of getting that money into a few different places that I think are a little bit have more upside, I think, than the Giratina alternate art is a good idea for me, because I don't really have any personal connection to Giratina as a Pokemon, and while I think it's a really, really cool card, it's just worth too much for me to want to keep it in my collection when I know it's worth that much money. So that's kind of what I'm going to do with it. I really appreciate you guys watching. I would love to hear your thoughts. Like, well, how would you spend that money? How would you allocate it? You don't have to go into huge detail, but like, my other thought, and I'm going to be honest, I totally consider this, was getting a Japanese Neo Genesis pack that just popped up on Rare Candy. They did like a deal, and it was only $200. I almost just picked that up. Just the degenerate part of me just wanted to just, risk it and try to get that Lugia. But to me, it's smarter to just get a bunch of different stuff that I will actually really appreciate and kind of grow my collection in that way. I will have an update video once I've purchased these things, or if I change my mind and purchase something slightly different. I will show that off. I would imagine that's going to be like 2 weeks out, just accounting for shipping time, and like I'm not going to buy everything today. Probably by the end of the weekend I'll have made all these purchases. So with that in mind, thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you on the next one.